Week 7 of the fantasy football season. Here's a few plays I look to buy and trade for this week. The first play is Jahmyr Gibbs of the Detroit Lions. I know Gibbs, he's been pretty decent this season, but obviously not putting up the numbers where fantasy owners drafted him in the first, second round of most fantasy drafts. So Jahmyr Gibbs, he's been double digits every week this season, but he just hasn't had that patented game. He hasn't even reached 20 fantasy points in a game this season as Jahmyr Gibbs. So we know he's an explosive running back, but also we know David Montgomery's the goal line back. And so far this season's been a little bit better for fantasy owners than Jahmyr Gibbs on the season. So Gibbs is a great talent. Like I said, some fantasy owners might not want to give him away, obviously, in a deal. But like I said, they've got him in that first, second round range. And his numbers have been good, no doubt about it, but just hasn't put up that elite, 25, 30-point fantasy game is Jahmyr Gibbs. So right now, coming off a ball game where he didn't do much in a 47-9 victory at the Dallas Cowboys with 12 carries, 63 yards, and 3 catches, 28 yards. This is a perfect time to buy Jahmyr Gibbs low because we saw it last season as well. I know last year was his rookie year, but he got more touches, got a little bit more playing time, and I also know Montgomery missed some games. But Jahmyr Gibbs, after the bye week in week 5, and now Gibbs coming in last week not doing much, he could turn things after the bye week in week 5 for this Detroit Lion team. I think Gibbs, he's going to get more playing time and more snaps as the season goes on, where they want to keep Montgomery a little bit fresher as well. And he might even start to mix and match on some goal line touches. So right now, while Gibbs has had a good season, but not the elite season where fantasy owners drafted him in that late first, early second round, he's definitely a buy low play this week. The next buy low is DK Metcalf. The Seattle Seahawks, DK Metcalf, he started off the year great, 3 out of 4 games, 100-plus yards in those ball games. But the last 2 weeks, he's been non-existent and very frustrated over the last 2 weeks as well, yelling at teammates, calling up to the offensive coordinator. Frustrated is Metcalf. In the last 2 weeks, week 5 versus the Giants, 4 catches, 55 yards, and fumble loss. In week 6, he got peppered with targets, 11 in that ball game, 3 catches, 48 yards. So last 3 out of 4 weeks of the season, he had monster weeks was Metcalf, but the last 2 weeks, he's slumping. But Week 7 is a great matchup indoors at the Atlanta Falcons, where the Atlanta Falcons, their defense isn't all that great. We've seen Deontay Johnson come off a great game versus them last week, and I think this week DK Metcalf, he could bounce back, but while he struggled the last couple weeks, but the targets are still there, and he's frustrated, I think they'll turn things around, and he'll get it going. He's a buy low play this week. The next buy low is Marvin Harrison Jr. of the Arizona Cardinals. So his numbers haven't been horrible this season, but there's games he's disappeared, and now he's banged up with a concussion, is Marvin Harrison. So we don't know if he's going to play versus the Los Angeles Chargers. It's an extra day's rest for Monday Night Football, that ball game being on for this Arizona Cardinal team. So Marvin Harrison this year, 3 out of 6 games, double-digit fantasy points. But the last 2 weeks, he really hasn't done much. Week 5 at San Francisco, 2 catches, 36 yards on 7 targets. In Week 6 at Green Bay, he left at the late part of the second quarter in that one, where he only had 2 targets and then took a big hit to his head, and he was done after that. So Marvin Harrison, a great talent, but another player taken in that second, third round range for fantasy owners. And the targets really haven't been there this season, and the one monster game in Week 2 was the only huge performance for Marvin Harrison. So right now, well, he's been underwhelming for the most part, especially ADP-wise, like I mentioned, for Harrison Jr. He's definitely a buy low player this week, because if he could get healthy and get back on track with Kyler Murray, I think he could take off and really start putting numbers up this season is Marvin Harrison. Next buy low is Patrick Mahomes of the Kansas City Chiefs. I know he's without Rashee Rice the rest of the season. We know Pacheco possibly could miss the rest of the regular season. And Hollywood Brown, he didn't appear in one regular season game, getting hurt in preseason, so it's been tough for Mahomes, no doubt about it, this season. He's putting up pretty much waiver wire quarterback numbers, where his best game was only 21 fantasy points this season as Mahomes. But I think they're going to go in the playbook more coming off a bye week. And this is a Super Bowl matchup where, he's going to be pumped up and get things going, I believe, is Patrick Mahomes, because he knows with Kareem Hunt in the backfield and obviously Samaje Perine, Carson Steele, it's not the greatest of tandem in the backfield for this Kansas City Chief team. And it's going to rely on him to get the football down the field and make plays, which obviously Mahomes could do it. 3-time Super Bowl winner. And he's just off to a slow start, but with a bye week and getting into the playbook more and getting these other guys up to snuff who haven't been on the team all season or who haven't had expanded roles like they need to now. I think this Chief team, their offense starts to be more explosive, and Patrick Mahomes starts to turn things around. Next buy low on Achane of the Miami Dolphins. So this Dolphin team coming off a bye week, Achane coming off a concussion as well. And Achane, the first 2 games of the season, monster performances. And then ever since Tua went down, this offense as a whole just hasn't done much. So he hasn't had a double-digit fantasy game since week 2 was Achane. Bye week was here in week 6. And Tua possibly is targeting week 8, supposedly to return. So if you give Achane now, and he's got a good matchup coming up this week at the Indianapolis Colts, I give up the 9th most fantasy points to running backs on the season. Maybe he could do good there. And maybe Tyler Huntley will be up to snuff more with this playbook because he's only been with this Miami Dolphin team for a month. Trying to get into the playbook more and learn it 100% is Tyler Huntley. So maybe this Dolphin team comes out better after the bye week. And Devon Achane, we know he's a great talent. And just things haven't gone his way this season for the most part with his injury and with Tua being out. Next by low is his teammate Jalen Waddle of the Miami Dolphins. So Jalen Waddle, he's definitely taken the worst of it all, I think, with Tua out of the lineup. At least Tyreek Hill has put up some mediocre numbers over the last couple weeks. But Jalen Waddle, he has failed to reach 9 or more fantasy points in the last few weeks since Tua's been out of the lineup. So him as well, coming off the bye week, maybe him and Huntley could build more rapport. And it can't get any worse for this Miami Dolphin offense, in my opinion, where they've only scored in the last 3 ball games 30 points, 10 points per game, which is obviously a horrible number. But like I said, they can't be any worse coming out of the bye. We know Jalen Waddle's a great wide receiver, and the whole thing is just getting him the ball because yards after catch, he's one of the best yak wide receivers in the league, I still believe, is Jalen Waddle. So we'll see how this Dolphin team comes out. But right now, you definitely could get Waddle and Achane on a discount this week, and this would be the time to do it, coming off the bye. Not much going before then, and Tua coming back possibly any week now. And the final player I look to buy and trade for this week for is Kyler Murray of the Arizona Cardinals. So Kyler Murray, it's been one good game, one bad game type of mix for Kyler Murray on the season. So Murray's a great talent in terms of fantasy football, but in real life, obviously, he holds on to the football a whole lot. He takes some big hits at times, is Kyler Murray, and at times as well, him and his receivers just aren't in sync. So like I said, he can't get 2 games in a row with big numbers. In the last 3 out of 4 games, he's failed to reach 20 or more fantasy points, is Kyler Murray. I know he's a great talent. I know he can run the football and get a lot of rushing yards on that, is Kyler Murray, where obviously those hybrid type of quarterbacks have more value than the pocket passes. But like I said, he just hasn't done much, is Kyler Murray. And now with Marvin Harrison out, who knows how long with the concussion. Maybe he plays next week. Maybe he doesn't. This is a perfect time to buy Murray. Like I said, he's failed to reach 20 or more fantasy points the last 3 out of 4 ball games. And with the Chargers and Dolphins coming up, 2 beatable matchups, I think Murray could turn things around and get things going. So right now, well, he's been slumping of late for the most part. He's a buy low player this week, so that's a few players I look to buy and trade for week 7 of the fantasy football season.